The Sculptor in the Parklands project at Lough Boora is an initiative where artists have been invited to create work as a response to the unique landscape of a cutaway bog. Kevin O'Dwyer is the director of the project and also one of the participating artists. He took me for a tour around the parkland and told me about some of the sculptures that are in permanent view there.
Well, we're coming up towards the Sky Train by Mike Bulfin, and this piece was inspired by his childhood memory in the 1940s and 50s of the trains that used to bring the turf into the power plant.
This is a small locomotive with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sort of grid-like carriages behind it and a caboose at the end of it, set on a crescent-type hill with some arch in the hill made out of flywheels or industrial factories, discarded wheels of an industrial factory, you know?
Yeah, this is all part of the actual industrial harvesting of Bordemona. So those wheels that you're actually looking at would have been on some of the large harvesters that were taking the peat into the power plant.
So this is kind of like recycling old junk that was left over in the post-industrial Lough Boora and making something really beautiful out of it.
Yeah, it's part of the brief when the artist came on site was to be either inspired by the industrial heritage of the area, and they have the use of materials that are still left here, or by the environmental heritage and the new process or the new look of what was a bog and is now a cutaway bog.
What we're looking at here really is an environmental disaster put right. Could that be right in saying that?
Well, you have to look at it in context of the time of the harvesting here, let's say in the 40s and 50s, in which Bordemona actually worked this area for the fuel for industrial use, electricity as well, and again looking at the cutting of peat for home use. So yes, this area is what would be known as cutaway bog, and it's been completely harvested of all its peat. And so we're basically down to 5,000 years ago when we're looking at this landscape, what it probably would have been like, or maybe even longer, because after the Ice Age, we're talking 10,000 years ago, all this area was actually
So the last
lakes.
person, the first people who originally started at the level we're standing on, stood here 10,000 years ago.
Yeah, it could possibly be, if there were people wandering around here.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, they did find some bodies here in the workings in the 40s and 50s, didn't they?
That's right, yeah. They found them from a number of, yeah. You actually have it, at the moment in the National Museum, you have the Crohan man, which was found in a bog, which would have been a different part of Offaly, but again found, and he was murdered for ceremonial purposes.
Yeah, probably lost a match or something. Yeah. This is your piece, the equilateral triangles, or
the 60 degrees. Its name, and there are 3 triangles that are made of, again, using the industrial heritage of the area, the sleepers of the trains, the train tracks, and then the stainless steel is the middle one, and it's kind of a look at the old use of the area, as in the older using the sleepers in steel, and then the new use as in the stainless steel, the use as a Parklands area. And they're kind of like, they're large standing stones sitting out, contemporary type standing stones sitting out in the landscape.
They look small from over here, but they're quite big, I'd imagine.
They are. Well, the largest one is over 5 meters. And the way that they're lined up is when you're up at the Sky Train, actually, and you're looking down, they all actually fit into each other. So they look like one piece. But as you're walking around, no matter what position you're in, they're interacting with the landscape in a different way. When we go down, a bit further down, and we look back at the sleeve blooms, you'll see how they work with the mountains there as well.
Very simple, very beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. When people come on site here, when the artists actually come on site, Bordemona basically give us the manpower and the equipment to actually create the works of art. So when an artist actually comes here with their prototypes, their ideas, myself and the engineers and the workers there, they look at it, they decide on what's necessary, materials, etc. And then for 3 weeks in September, as one of the lads say, Seamus Barron, we're all sculptors in this place. And they come out here, and we're going to be walking over now to Caroline Madden and Dave Kinane's pieces, which were just finished in September. And there were 8, 10 Bordemona workers working on it, at certain times, and some of them full-time for the 3 weeks. It's really
community art.
Yeah, it is, and the community rally around it as well. It's wonderful.
Great. Let's go and have a walk across the bridge here. Steel, old railway tracks.
Yeah, we're standing in the middle of Caroline Madden's piece. It's called Cycles, and her piece is made out of railway line and welded steel, and she's a glass artist, so she's incorporated glass, some red glass up at the very top of this. This piece is about 26, 28 foot in height, and these very, very simple glass forms that are up there, and they take the light. And I mean, this evening we have this wonderful sunset coming, and it's just throwing the light.
It's like an industrial rainbow.
That's it. Yeah. And this is really interesting, Padraig. When you look at this is almost like plows, these steel parts that are down here. It's this idea. I know it looks very much like it's inspired by the actual old Verband cooling towers, but it's as much about scraping the earth. How we scrape over centuries, how we've scraped the earth cut through both in using the plow and also in the peat production.
It must be lovely when it gets a bit of wind and the glass piece starts moving, and it has movement in it, even though it's a very solid piece.
It certainly has, yeah.
And just across the way there's a very, very exciting piece, which is a similar. It is a Verband cooling station, is it?
That's right. That's Dave Kinane's piece, and it's called Boora Convergence. What was really funny with these pieces, now these are the two new pieces for this year, and as I was saying, we have an ongoing process of commissioning 2 artists every year. And Caroline is a professor of sculpture in Florida, and Dave is in Leitrim at the Leitrim Sculpture Factory. And they both had site visits in March, and they hadn't discussed it at all, but they both had picked up on there used to be the Verband cooling towers here. And in June, all of a sudden, I received these drawings, and the two pieces were so, they had the forms were so similar, yet they had never communicated with each other before. So we decided to actually place the two pieces in a close vicinity to each other, because they really played off each other well.
They're nearly a male and female.
That's right, yeah.
But it's very simple.
And also, if you notice how the different sculptures are now interacting with each other, as there are more pieces dropped in, how they play off each other.
So it's kind of like you're a sculpture farmer. Every year you grow 2 more.
Very close to it.
We've been approaching the sculpture now for about 100 metres, and as we get near, it looks like a kind of a framed box of cross sections of trees. Is that what we're looking at here?
Yeah, this is Jorn Ronnau of Denmark's sculpture, Boora Triangle, and it's actually built of bogwood. And when he came here, he designed this piece, and the bogwood was pulled out of some of the areas that are still being harvested. He's a man that works with a chainsaw, so he built this triangular form, which I think you'll enjoy seeing when we walk up to it. And it's a place of meditation, and he was influenced and inspired by the whole idea of the monastic sites in the area, and this idea of the monks going and separating from the rest of the community and going off and meditating.
It looks like a plain and simple thing from here, but it looks very attractive. Let's walk up and see what's like inside, or the other side of it is.
Right.
This is probably the most beautiful space I've been in all year. It's a triangle. The walls are made of cross sections of bog oak cut and stacked on top of each other, and framed with oak and steel structure. On one side there's a cut which you can look towards the west again and see the sun. And in this corner I'm sitting on a little bench in the corner here, and it's the most comfortable, most beautiful place I've sat in a long time.
What you're sitting on is actually bog yew, and the actual structure itself is made of bog oak, bog pine and bog yew. And the really interesting part of this, besides just the structure itself, is when Jorn was cutting, when they were bringing in these large pieces of tree trunks, etc., and when he was cutting the pieces, when he was working on the pine, the smell of fresh pine, now this is carbon dated 4,000 or 5,000 years old, and the smell of fresh pine that was coming out of here, for a week you could actually sit in this structure and get this incredible smell that you were actually inhaling 5,000 years ago. The history It's pretty amazing, and the piece gets better as time goes because it's starting. You know, the you can see the color is changing.
It's weathering, and it's.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful piece. It's a simple thing when you're coming towards it. When you come around the corner of it, it's very attractive, little triangle, and then when you come inside it, it's like being back in a monastic cell. Fantastic.
Well, the beauty too is, you know, all the pieces are so three-dimensional that so no matter where you go, you see something different about the pieces, which is really neat.
Yeah, they change. Every aspect changes as you walk around the place.
And the light changes all the time, and also the seasons. I mean, to get a small snowfall in this area totally changes the look of the pieces. It's absolutely fantastic. And you know, I often come down here when there's a hard frost in October, you know, late November and that, and you can see the pieces and how wonderful they look with that, you know, the sun just kind of peeping out and throwing light on them as well.
And that was Kevin O'Dwyer, director of the Sculptor in the Parklands project at Lough Boora in County Offaly, who took me on a recent tour around the artworks there. The Lough Boora Sculpture Park is open to the public 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day. For further information, you can visit sculptorintheparklands.com, and do visit the park because it is an extremely beautiful place and a fantastic project. And that's it now from the 11th Hour this evening. The programme was produced by Siobhan Mannion and researched by Susan O'Loughlin. Miles Nealon was on sound. Stay tuned now for the Book on One. This week there's an opportunity to hear about the range of characters in Seamus Murphy's classic memoir, Stone Mad. The reader is Liam Heffernan. From all on the 11th Hour, Ihiwa.